Hello, everybody, and happy Friday, and welcome to this week's episode of Alpha Leaks. My name's Declan. You all know who I am by now, and we've had quite a busy couple of weeks actually. You know, hopefully most of you tuned in for the second ever episode of Connected that we hosted last week. You may already know, but it was with the a project that I've spoken about quite a bit called Coca. And I was very happy to have Vasily, who is CEO at Coca, join us and give us a really deep dive and big walkthrough in terms of how the product works, some of the challenges that they've been facing. And again, I think I commented on this when we did the first Connected series. Why is it different from Alpha Leaks? Well, it's because you actually have the time to really dive into some of these projects and understand a lot more of what's going on, not only for our partners, but also, hopefully helping everybody here understand what our thinking is. Why are we working the way we're working? Why are we building the features that we're building? And Coca is a particularly interesting use case because obviously of my personal background, within the banking space and at Revolut. So, it was really interesting to really dive in with the rest of you as to what Coca are doing, some of the challenges that they're facing. And these are challenges that are going to appear more and more, especially I would say over the next 6 to 12 months. So if you haven't listened yet, I would highly recommend you give it a go. It's quite insightful, and it gives you quite a bit of context about both Aurora and about what Coca are doing. But I will summarize for those that haven't got time, because it was quite a long episode. We did run slightly over time. I take full responsibility for that. But essentially what we were talking about was this idea that UX is quickly becoming the dominant force, and we're seeing across ecosystems as a whole and projects across a whole that businesses are really becoming truly product first. They're not becoming solely community first or ecosystem first or hype first. They are building tangible products that solve real problems. And we've seen over the past, year, how many projects have crashed and burnt, or have evolved into becoming something new. Aurora itself pivoted away from virtual chains and towards intents. And in the case of Coca, what they're actually working on quite hard is bridging this gap between kind of Web 2 and Web 3. And what we're going to see, hopefully, is a gateway where more users that are crypto curious but perhaps don't have the expertise or understanding of the complexities of blockchain technology are being able to enter this space in a safe and secure way. So I highly recommend that you do take a chance to listen to the Connected series. And if not, we do have a case study that walks into a lot of these kind of problems that were discussed and how they're being tackled and how they're being solved. So again, depending on your preference, you've got a number of options there to really understand what's been going on. Now, another announcement which you may have spotted was our partnership with Monad. So Intents Connect, which is one of the more interesting products of our suite in terms of the technical complexity and what it actually unlocks for builders, has got a new partner. So what we've now enabled is the ability to route any asset, any chain directly into your Monad application. That's full execution, right? So we're not talking about just bridging a balance. We're not just talking about being able to move assets that sit there. It's a single integration point for any Monad project that wants to allow assets to be used instantly and seamlessly. Armand actually went into a bit more detail on this when he was talking about long tail assets with Intents Connect. So why does this actually matter? Because this is actually a question that I've had come up a few times over the past month. How is Intents Connect any different from deposits? Well, you can see in the diagram here, you can take any long tail asset you want. Doesn't matter. It can be a token that's even not supported by Near Intents protocol itself. In this case, we're using the example of Aero on base with Solana. What Intents Connect is allowing you to do is not only bring that asset, whether it's supported or otherwise by the protocol, into your application, but rather than the user then needing to take an additional step, whether it's depositing, whether it's staking, Intents Connect actually interacts with the smart contract itself to fulfill that last action as well. And that's why you often hear this last mile quote, or reference by myself or other members of the team. And that's because it's exactly what it does. It is fulfilling that last step, that last mile of the customer's journey, of the customer's intention. And that is pretty important for projects that want to be able to retain users and ensure that they're not getting drop off. And this drop off piece is actually something that isn't talked about very often, but it should be talked about more. One of the biggest challenges that any project has, whether you're in crypto, whether you're in Web 2, whether you're in finance, whether you're in gaming, is user drop off. If a user drops off during the onboarding process, you won't typically get them back. And in the case of online platforms or online websites, that can be as high as 80, 90% drop off rates. In crypto, the challenge is actually exacerbated slightly by the underlying technology, because users often find the onboarding process too difficult, especially if they've got assets that are sitting across multiple networks or networks that are not natively supported. Because what they have to then do is not only bring and deposit the assets that they want into that application, but they often then need to ensure that they have gas to be able to do that as well. So Intense Connect is really removing a lot of that friction, not just Intense Connect, but Aurora Intense in general. As a matter of fact, we've seen it with Coca only in the last kind of week and a half, and we've seen it with Solflare in the weeks that are coming before that. What we're doing is allowing users to onboard seamlessly without needing to understand the network differences, the underlying infrastructure challenges. Instead, their only job is to fulfill the intention they came there for. And the result of that is going to be a far lower churn rate. Now, outside of that, clearly I've been busy over the last couple of weeks as well. So I was very delighted to be invited by Austin Federa to walk through Aurora Intense in more detail. I talked about the execution flow. I talked about confidential intents, some of the challenges that we face within the industry, some of the challenges that we face with near intense protocol as a whole. Obviously I referenced the issues that Litecoin, caused a couple of months ago. So yeah, if you want to learn more about the wider infrastructure and perhaps a little bit more technical than I would typically go into on Alpha Leaks, then this would be an interesting podcast for you to listen to. Now, for those who obviously don't know already, ETH Belgrade is happening right now, and we've actually sent a pretty sizable team to this one. So we've got Nick, you've actually seen him on Alpha Leaks before. Armand, of course, you know very well, but perhaps who you don't know that well are two other members of our BD team, which is Greg and Polina. So they're currently over there right now. They've been catching up with Solflare, they've been catching up with the Solana team, and we actually went one step further. So not only are we attending, but we actually hosted an invite-only event with the Solflare team inside Belgrade's fortress, and the team have shared some footage of what was happening there. So as you can see here, the location was fantastic. I think it was quite relevant as well, in relation to what we're doing with Intense. But it's been a fantastic event and a fantastic opportunity for the team to meet our partners, to meet new partners. The feedback we've had in relation to Aurora Intense has been phenomenal. There's a lot of new projects that have already kind of registered their interest with us to actually integrate. Armand actually contacted me on Wednesday or maybe yesterday to let me know that a partner he'd spoken to at this event was already integrating. The API key was already active, and this is the kind of traction that we want to see. It shows relevance of our product, it shows value of our product, and it also shows the importance that projects are placing on solving these problems of UX and of abstracting the complexities of cross-chain away. So yeah, I'm sure though the team will be sharing more about what they've been up to in Belgrade over the coming days and possibly next week. But as I said, you can get an inside scoop right here, right now. Now, they are all of the key updates on my side, but of course, in Alpha Leaks, we always have our clash of memes. So let's have a look. I've not actually seen these ones, so I'm as in the dark as the rest of you are going to be. Okay, if I join Connect with auroraisnear as a guest, I'll ask Declan, knowing what you know now as Aurora CEO, which pill do you pick? Continue with the progress of Aurora Labs or restart everything about Aurora but won't be the CEO? Interesting. Well, I mean, look, number one, I'm a huge Matrix fan. I'm a movie fan in general. Always going to go for the red pill. But I mean, it's an interesting one. I've only been CEO since December. I was in Aurora nearly 3 years, before that. So I'd be with Aurora regardless. But I wouldn't change what we've done and the decisions we've made over the last 8 months. We've got Aurora Intense, we're getting traction, we're getting volume. Even this month, we've seen a huge spike in the number of transactions that are going through. We're seeing much more stable daily volume metrics as well. So I'm actually pretty happy with the progress the team have made. I think Aurora have done a fantastic job. I'll have some interesting news to share with you about Aurora and our stability and what we've been doing on our upcoming 250th Alpha Leaks episode. So that's going to be something to look forward to. It's going to be a very unique episode, to say the least. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. I'm not going to give anything away, but it's definitely one that you'll want to tune into, and it's definitely one that you'll want to listen to. So yeah, Zane, I'm actually going to give you I'm going to give you one of our prizes here because you opened up quite an interesting talking area for me. Yeah, I think that's quite clever. So congratulations, you are our first winner. Okay, we have Adrian. Trading obstacles start acting tough until the real boss drops the intense. Okay, nice. I like that. Okay, praise. Acting like I'm fine, but I'm not because I missed connected with auroraisnear. Well, you haven't missed it, praise. It's been posted on X, so you can always have a listen in if you haven't seen it already. Trying to hold it together, but I like the meme. Okay, we've got Leotom. Wow, that's a shiner. Oh, okay. Okay, they're all shinies. I don't even. I'm not quite sure what to make of that one, but okay, Leoton, I'm going to give you that because it's quite possibly one of the most unique videos I've seen to describe the Aurora Intense team. I'm going to pass this one on to Nick in particular. I think you'll find this one quite amusing. Okay, we've got Rachel. So Aurora Convoy Destination, Belgrade Blockchain Week. Yeah, very nice. When you put on connected guest list, everything else can wait. Christ, I wish I could drive a bike that well. Okay, main character energy only. The Aurora team on their way to Belgrade Blockchain Week. Dungeon Master knows I'm a big fan of the Peaky Blinders. Fun fact, by the way, for everybody who's also a fan of Peaky Blinders, one of the actors in season 6, I won't say who it is, has actually moved in to a place I travel to quite regularly. So I was getting loads of inside scoop on the series, and of course the recent film and the upcoming reboot that's going to be arriving. So yes, Peaky Blinders is definitely up there as one of my favourites. Okay, we have Immortal, choosing to attend both connected with Aurora and meet the wonderful team at Belgrade to talk about everything Aurora Intense is doing. Yeah, very nice. This is how... As you can see, I have a dark sense of humour. Okay, thank you, Swayam. Okay, we've got the young feeling connected. Me after hearing that I'm the next guest of Connected with Aurora Intense. My daughter dances like that. Okay, what else have we got? Craig Moretti. My reaction when Declan finally invites me to be the next guest of Connected. Okay, and we have one more. Okay, generational lock-in when my barber knows I've been invited to be a guest on Connected. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, so there's some pretty good ones here. I think I'm going to give an extra prize this week because there's two that I'm struggling to choose between. So the young, congratulations, you are going to be one of our winners. And yeah, Dungeon Master, you're going to be our fourth. So congratulations to all of our winners this week. Always appreciate it. Now let's have a quick look and see what questions that we have. Okay, there's quite a few here, so I'm going to have to kind of go through and try and answer them all. Okay, so we have a question here from Aphid. Can you give us updates and a recap of the activities of the Aurora Intense team at Belgrade Blockchain Week? Yeah, so obviously they're still there right now. So on the next Alpha Leaks, we'll definitely share some more insights. I might even bring a member of the team on to actually discuss what they got up to there. I'll see if Nick's up for it. But yeah, so far it's been really, really good. The response has been positive. The private event that we hosted with the Soulflare team was fantastic. So far so good. Okay, Immortal Gene is already alpha, so yes, hopefully you've seen a few bits there, and I've already covered that. Okay, how big can Monad's market become if Aurora Intense removes the cross-chain friction entirely? Very good question. That's probably one for the Monad team. Our job is to remove those obstacles. It's the project's job to then build on that removal and to ensure that they are maximizing the potential that it provides. Okay, so okay, this is an interesting question, and perhaps I haven't actually covered this before. So if I haven't, apologies. What is the schedule for the episodes? I don't want to miss one. So Alpha Leaks will continue every Friday at the same time, but it's every 2 weeks instead of one. And the reason that we've done that is to ensure that we are packing this full of really useful information for you guys, and to ensure that we're sharing as many updates as we can do. And I've got the time to really go through what's important for both Aurora and the community. The Connected series isn't on any kind of standard platform in terms of timelines. So depending on who we're working with, what we're doing, and availability will determine when that Connected series airs. But even if you miss it live, we always post the recording on our X account afterwards. So you will be able to catch up on it, and there won't be any chance of you missing it either. Okay, we have a question from Saeed. Apart from Coca and Soulflare, which platforms are using Aurora Intense? Yes, so we have, I think, do you know what? I can actually double check this now in terms of how many projects we actually have integrated. So we have 32 active integrations. So I classify active integrations as any project that has processed a transaction, that is actively putting volume through Aurora Intense. We have a lot of other projects that have registered but are either integrating or still working through it. But we have 32 in total right now. Okay, so we have a question from Craig. Now that there's a slight market recovery, could we potentially see Calyx coming back anytime soon? You know, I could have put money on this question coming up. Great question. So we have obviously seen some improvement in the market. We've seen a lot more excitement. The greed index has certainly shifted, and we're seeing some token growth. But I wouldn't classify it as stable or any kind of guarantee of a bull market. So we don't currently have a date in mind for relaunching Calyx, but I will of course be the first person to share with you all if and when we launch Calyx. Right now our focus, however, is still very much on Aurora Intense. Okay, we have a question here. So are the fees gotten from Aurora Intense products going to be used for Aurora token buybacks and burns? Yes, great question. So we're actually working through a potential change or upgrade or evolution, whatever word you want to call it, of our tokenomics. It's actually been one of our critical streams for this quarter. I'll be discussing it, and we'll be making a decision as a management team at our upcoming offsite, which is taking place mid-September. So more to come on that one. Bear with me. Hopefully I'll be able to share some news. Okay, question from Adrian. This is an interesting one. President Trump makes announcements on Hyperliquid. Do you think there will be a partnership with Intense in the near future? Watch this space. That's all I can really say. I can't really reference President Trump. That's not going to have a huge influence on the partnership, because obviously we tend to keep the politics aside from the partnership integrations. But Hyperliquid is already in use on near.com today. They're using that, I believe, on the earn products. At least I think I'm correct on that. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, as for upcoming partnerships, you'll have to wait and see on that one. Okay, what else do we have? So we have a question here from the Young. Do we see Intense native token coming soon? I can't answer that, I'm afraid. So Aurora Intense, of course, isn't Near Intense. The Near Intense have their own team. They have their own protocol, which is, of course, managed by Alex and Diffuse Labs. So it's up to them as to what they choose to do, if the protocol is going to have a token. As for Aurora, as I said, we're working heavily on the token and the tokenomics and all of our plans and strategies around the token at the moment, and there's nothing else I can share on that. Okay, will Coca be integrating more fiat into their vaults? So there is more conversations that's happening with our friends at Coca in relation to kind of additional integrations and additional functionality. But given it would be a Coca feature, not an Aurora one, it would be for them to share first. It wouldn't be for me to kind of share anything on that at this stage. Okay, we have one more question here from Praise. I recently saw that near 3.33 is almost filled up. What's next? Watch this space, but if you really don't want to wait, there are numerous posts on X where they've kind of dived into this mechanism, and maybe that will give you some clues. But again, that's not an incentive that is owned or driven by myself or the Aurora team. So you'll need to watch very closely what Near Intense is posting on X for that one. Okay, so I think I've covered everything there. Apologies if I have missed you out. I'm just doing a quick peruse. Okay, but there was one I missed. Apologies, Leoton. Which chain would you like to see integrated into near intents next? So, yeah, it's interesting because obviously integrations processed by the near intents protocol team automatically mean that we get that availability on our Aurora Intents products, with the exception of Intents Connect. Now, Intents Connect, for example, we're already providing functionality with Monad that isn't supported natively. Um, and and so what we're starting to see is less of a dependency on which chains are coming next and more of a focus as who we want to work with next and what our partners require of us next, either through Intents Connect or by working directly with the Near Intents team. So yeah, there's a few networks that I know are under review and being actively looked at, and all of them will be a benefit to our clients. Okay, so I think I've covered everybody now. So all that's left for me to say, as usual, is have a fantastic weekend, rest up, and I look forward to seeing you on the next Alpha Leaks in 2 weeks' time. Goodbye now and take care.